Before it was years, it was days and weeks. Let's do a double feature. 28 Days Later was a big pick-me-up for director Danny Boyle in the early 2000s. Trainspotting really put his directing career on the map, so in its aftermath, he went a bit more commercial with his next two films. But neither of them saw the success that he or the studio hoped for. So through his relationship with 20th Century Fox at the time, he went back to work with its subsidiary studio Fox Searchlight Pictures. It served up his first official collaboration with author and screenwriter Alex Garland, one that feels like it has a bigger budget than it actually has, but has all the qualities of a DIY indie flick. Part of what makes this experience so effectively terrifying is its sense of realism, which was brought out through the very experimental decision for Danny Boyle to shoot a lot of this digitally. That wasn't very common in the early 2000s, and they definitely effectively cut a lot of corners when it came to the budget. Notably, our introduction to Jim, where he wakes up in the hospital and roams the streets of a devastated London. That was all done at the crack of dawn. It prevented them from having to pay to close various sections of the city and still have a very desolate, empty feeling, because at that specific hour there wasn't really anyone out on the streets while daylight was actually still present. When it comes to this being a zombie film, I think that's a loose term. Sure, the threat has zombie-like qualities, but I feel it's an allegory to the inner rage that any person can harbor inside of them, and how when that rage is channeled, they're at a complete loss of mind and just aren't themselves anymore. And the second half does get pretty dark and disturbing, but it goes to some of this film's deepest thematic places, notably looking at the idea that the human beings you're seeking shelter with, soldiers who seem to swear to protect you, are actually just as much of a threat as the raging individuals you're running away from. And the character work is excellent. It's very easy to connect with the individuals in this movie, even when it comes to some of the decisions they have to make to survive. It ups the intensity when they're in danger, and you feel the heartbreak when you lose one of them. And 23 years later, this movie is still making an impact on audiences. Now, I see 28 Weeks Later as more of a spin-off than an actual sequel. Sure, it's set later in time past the first film, but it never in any way actually connects itself to the prior story. It just looks at this situation from a different perspective. I don't think it's as thematically bold, but I see this more as a bonus story that functions more as an entertaining popcorn horror film. And you do feel the absence of Boyle's kinetic direction and Garland's thematic writing. Nonetheless, on the journey to 28 years later, this is still absolutely worth pressing play on.